I wanted to do and at least two or three poets of longing, the poetics of longing, of homesickness. So for this video, I'll just draw from the classical Chinese poetry. This is a translation by Kenneth Rexroth. Was a very, really active poet and translator in the mid 20th century America, and he actually inspired a lot of poets from that time, and it was some sort of mentor to the most of the beat poets of that generation. So he really loved the poets, classical literature from the Far East. So he did a number of one translations, and one thing I realized is, these Chinese poets. China is a very big place, and it was a big country even back then. And most poets who are given such important position in the civil service. I mean, it's not like this time where poets, um, have been so much sidelined in the practical day-to-day life of doings of government. But those days, a very respected poet who was always being given certain positions in court, and with every regime they came across, even if they didn't agree with their way of ruling, which most of the times made them find themselves in exile one way or another in a far away point of the empire. So there was always this, really deep surge of longing for home that you could read in some of the poetry translated here. So one of them that I shall read is traveling northward. So probably traveling away from home. So this is by Tufu. Who Tufu or Dufu, who for me I consider like be the best poet from the Tang dynasty, High Tang, and probably pretty much of classical Chinese poetry. So here I think he's been given an assignment by the leader to some northern part of the empire, and they're traveling. It's probably the beginning of winter, so it's very appropriate right now. Traveling northward, screech owls mourn in the yellowing mulberry trees. Field mice scurry, preparing their holes for winter. Midnight, we cross an old battlefield. The moonlight shines cold on white bones. And another one, another spring. So change of season, and is still far away from home. White birds over the grey river, scarlet flowers on the green hills. I watch the spring go by and wonder if I shall ever return home. There's another Dufu poem, and there's also other classical Chinese writers whom he translates. But for this video, I shall read only the Dufu ones. So I'll read one last one, Poetics of Longing and Homesickness. So probably I'll do another series of this with a different poet, probably Rumi. Far up the river, A pair of golden orioles sings in the bright green willows. A line of white egrets crosses the clear blue sky. The window frames the western mountains, white with the snows of a thousand years, anchored to the pilings are boats from eastern Wu, 3,000 miles from home. So yeah, that's it. Three poems by Tufu about longing and homesickness and just being far away from home, which I really identify with at this point. Um, I mean, talking about poetry is really enjoyable with friends and other poets who care to listen, and it's always enjoyable for me to also find other people talking about poetry on YouTube and find that sense of community. But however much enjoyable the talking about poetry is, nothing beats the actual reading of the poems. And I mean, you go through them over and over again, and they just never fail to give you that sort of good feeling that you can only get by reading them and not talking about them. So that'd be all. And thank you. Subscribe and like.